and the English language is hard. And I have so much compassion and admiration for people who at the age of 50 will decide to learn English or go back and try to get their GED. I think it's so admirable and inspirational. It really does just show that it's never too late.
Well, Courtney, it's been a while. This has been a plan in the making after one attempt to plan this interview, but unfortunately some events happened, such as you getting sick, unfortunately, with this horrific weather that we're having, especially with it being like 40 mile hour per wind. I can't speak right now. High wind gusts.
Yes,
I'll just say that.
high wind gusts, yes.
Yeah, with the weather going on, but thank God we were both able to be very flexible with our schedules and make this happen. So I appreciate you hopping on the podcast with me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for your flexibility.
Oh, absolutely. And shout out Robert for making all this happen from Kids Can.
Yes, yay to Robert.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, Robert. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the 402 on Out podcast. I'm your host, Connor Wiesman, and with me is Courtney from Learning for All. She is the executive director here for the nonprofit. And for those who don't know what Learning for All is, it is a nonprofit. They are online, and they are also on UNO campus and other campuses as well, where they just help for people who move to America that really want to learn the English history, English language, literacy, and they're just trying to build their skills in just being an American. And Learning for All helps out with that, supports that. So here, as I said earlier, I'm with the executive director, Courtney, with me, and we're going to deep dive into this. So Courtney, before we talk about Learning for All, I want to get to know you a little bit better, so does the audiences, so we can see where we're coming from. Can you talk about just if you're from Nebraska, growing up in Nebraska, if you're from here and all that jazz?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I was born and raised here in Omaha, Nebraska. Grew up in the Dundee area. I'm sure many of you watching this are familiar with the Dundee area, but born and raised here. I went through the Omaha public school system and then graduated from Central High School. After I graduated from Central, I went to the University of Iowa, where I received my bachelor's degree in music therapy, which is a very specialized degree and obviously not at all in the nonprofit space. So graduated from University of Iowa. I did an internship in San Diego, California for 8 months, which was beautiful. Weather is completely unlike the weather here. It's very consistently beautiful. So I did an internship there for music therapy, moved back to Omaha in 2001 and started applying for jobs, ended up getting really lucky and getting a music therapy position with the Omaha Public Schools as a music therapist. Worked as a music therapist for OPS for 8 years. Resigned when I had my first son, who's now 15. Was able to be at home with both boys. I had a second son a couple years later, but was able to be at home with both of my kids for those really, really important first years. And after they went back to school, I went back into the early childhood education sector and started working in an early childhood center in Blair, Nebraska, which is where my husband and I live. We have an acreage in Fort Calhoun, but we're in the Blair School District. So that's where our kids attend school. So kind of weaved my way back into the education world, but in the early childhood setting, which I loved. But there were other things on the horizon, and a mutual friend of ours introduced me to this nonprofit, Learning for All, and I like to say the rest is history. There was a conversation, an introduction made via email with someone who used to work here, and I was just so intrigued with the mission of the organization and the types of people that the organization works with and for, and it seemed like a no-brainer. So I applied for the job of program director at the time and was lucky enough to be offered the position, and the rest is history. I was the program director for 4 years, and then so I started in September of 2020 with Learning for All, and then transitioned into the role of executive director in June of 2024. And it's just been incredible.
So you were a music therapist and music education, and you jumped into this. So how big of a jump was that for you?
You know, that's a great question. It was definitely a pivot. It was the nonprofit space is obviously very different than music therapy. But the thing that lined up and lines up most with both professions is that helping piece and meeting people where they are and providing a service that can really help them step into their best selves. And so when I was working in OPS, I was fortunate enough to work with kids with special needs, so kids with Down syndrome and autism and some pretty severe behavioral disorders, using music as the tool to help them step into their best selves. And then pivoting to this position, I really feel like I get to do the same in that we are helping residents, immigrants, and refugees every single day really step into their best life by empowering them with language and literacy and life skills. So
You brought up earlier how like once you learn about Learning for All, it just caught your attention. You loved like the purpose of it. Did you know someone personally, like a refugee or an immigrant, like right away when you thought of this nonprofit?
you know what? I didn't. That's a great question. I did not, but I think you tend to have a bleeding heart when you go into or start looking at nonprofit careers. I've always had a bleeding heart, and so I've always been drawn to more vulnerable, marginalized populations of people, and this was just a great fit.
Got it.
A great fit.
Can you share your daily routine of what your life is like working here at Learning for All?
Yeah, so we have an incredible team. It's myself. There are four of us on the leadership team, so it's myself. And then we have a fantastic GED coordinator and data specialist. Her name is Cameron Pullen. She oversees both of those lanes, I'd like to say. Katie Weber is our volunteer coordinator. She oversees our entire volunteer program, which is incredibly robust, and she built it from the ground up, and it's truly incredible. And then Nicole Partouche is our program director, and she really oversees our entire ESL program, our online classes, our in-person classes, figures out where we need to go in the community. So the day-to-day operations, obviously I'm sitting in the seat of really trying to make sure that we are always using best practices, that we're moving in the right direction, that we are consistently working on diversifying our funding. It's very different from the program director role, which is what I worked in for 4 years, but it's a lot of getting out into the community, letting people know who we are, what we're doing, why it's important, why there's a need, and just painting the picture of how we continue to grow and how crucial support is.
Would you say like 4 people in this nonprofit is like enough, or would you love to have more hands on deck?
I think that long term we will definitely have a larger team. The workload for all 4 team members is a lot. We all love it, and we are also passionate about what we do. And we often have conversations about how incredible it would be to add a 5th team member. It's a conversation that we have quite frequently, and honestly, one of the things that we often talk about is what would that 5th role be? Would it make the most sense for it to be a caseworker or a social worker or an operations manager? So I think that we all live in different lanes per se within the organization and focus on different things, and so we all see different needs. But I certainly think that over time there will be growth to our team.
Has it always been 4 people since you've been here?
Since I arrived in 2020, when I arrived in 2020, Katie, our volunteer coordinator, she started within 30 days of me. So we have been together throughout our entire length of time here at Learning for All. And so it was the executive director at that time and myself and then Katie. So there were 3 of us for a while, and then we added a 4th. And so I would say with the exception of about 1 year, it's been 4. It's been 4 of us. We had 5 for a handful of months, but most of the time it's been 4.
And then I was going to ask this towards the end of the interview, but I think this kind of relates now. It's kind of what we talked about earlier is your board of directors. So
Yes.
There's 4 people that work for Learning for All, and then you have 16 total members for your board of directors, correct?
That's exactly right. So yes, there are kind of several tiers of the organization. So there's a board of 16, 2 of which who sit in an advisory capacity, and then 14 voting members. And then within those 14 voting members, there's the executive committee that And so that's our president, our vice president, our treasurer, and our secretary. And then there's the leadership team. And then we have about 10 paid instructors, about 9 volunteer instructors, and then 65 one-on-one tutors. And so there are a lot of us really locking arms to support our mission and move our mission forward.
You're about 65 tutors.
65 tutors, yes. And when Katie stepped into this role of volunteer coordinator back in 2020, we had roughly 5 active tutors. And so she has really created an incredibly robust program that I really think sets us apart from a lot of other organizations. There are a lot of people that feel much more comfortable in that one-on-one dynamic than they do in a group class.
I want to talk about the one-on-one here in a little bit, but first, you kind of brought it up how Learning for All began. It started from someone else who is on the board of directors now, correct?
Yes.
Can you share more of how she started Learning for All and how that all went down?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great question. So in 2018, a former literacy organization that existed in Omaha had to shut its doors very quickly for reasons unbeknownst to us. And Jan Malashak Egermeyer, who is the founder of Learning for All, she and her 2 sons, Matt and Scott, came together, and she expressed to them that she felt awful that there were suddenly droves of people without services, without really, really necessary services. And she said to her sons, I want to start a 501c3, and I want to do it quickly so that we can open our doors and provide free of charge ESL, adult basic education, and GED to residents, immigrants, and refugees. And within 6 months, she had the 501c3 designation, which is an incredibly short period of time to get that done. But they did, and truly the rest is history. Our former physical office is off of 86th and Dodge. And so we used to hold all of our classes in that building and in various libraries around town. Obviously, that changed with COVID. COVID forced us into the online platform, which ended up being a true blessing for us. But that's really how it all started.
Awesome. So let's deep dive into how the classes work. So when I went online, I saw that the in-person classes, it has there's these 3 stages. There's the beginner, the intermediate, and I lost my train of thought right here. Advanced. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about how long those courses take, what's being taught in there, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So our registration process, one of the things that we are constantly taking a look at is our registration form, which is online. We do ask that all of our incoming students and existing students register online. It's the easiest way for our data specialist, Cameron, to house our data and manage our data. Obviously, paper forms serve a purpose and frankly are easier for a lot of English language learners. But for data purposes, the online registration form is easier. So people will visit our website, hear about us through word of mouth, hear about us because of our website, because of our social media platforms, and go online and register. We have 4 quarters of classes that happen throughout the year. So we just started our Q1 classes. Every quarter that we offer is 12 weeks long. Our classes meet twice a week for an hour and a half each time. And essentially what happens is, let's say Mary comes in and registers for a class with us. We assess her level of English so that we know whether she's a beginner, intermediate, or advanced level speaker. And then we provide her with the options of classes that we have for her. So we do have an online and in-person option for every level of English that we offer. And those are housed all around Omaha. So if it's an in-person class that someone is looking for, we try to offer those in North, West, South, East Omaha, here in Central Omaha, here at the CEC. So we really do our best to take the classes to the people, not us the people to come to the classes. And essentially what we're doing is we are helping them achieve their English language goals. And by doing that, we're helping empower them with life skills, with work opportunities. And with our folks who are coming to us for GED, our GED program is incredible. And Cameron Pullen, our GED specialist, has really reinvigorated that program into something truly incredible. So many of our GED students that come to us have faced really incredible challenges. And so again, what we want to try to do is remove those barriers, whether it be transportation or cost. And we really just want to try to meet our students where they are. So whether it's GED or ESL, our goal is to, well, first and foremost, we want to know what they want to do. Obviously, if they're coming to us for GED classes, they want to obtain their GED. So our hope is to make that happen for them. But ultimately, with an ESL student, if they come to us as a beginner, then our hope is that within 6 months, maybe they would go from a low beginner to a high beginner, and so forth and so on.
Do you have any data off the top of your head with like how many students are in person, how many students are online? Because I'm interested in that.
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have that data. Off the top of my head, I would say that within the last year, in 2025, there was certainly a greater interest in online classes. In fact, Nicole, our program director, I hate to quote these things because I'm always afraid that I'm going to get it wrong, but if I'm remembering correctly, she said that she could have created 2 additional online classes for this quarter simply based on the number of people on our wait list. And to give you an idea of how many people we have in each class, typically we cap out our in-person classes at about 20. And our online classes between 10 and 15. And so there's been a huge interest, certainly in both. But I would say that within the last year, there has been tremendous interest in online classes. And I think a lot of that is because of transportation barriers. I think that I know that we serve a lot of women who are home either during the day or in the evenings with small children. And if they can jump in online, they don't have to worry about childcare. So yeah, I would say that it's about 50-50. What I can tell you is that right now for quarter one, we have 6 online classes and we have 8 in-person classes.
And then in those classes, is it just one instructor?
Mm-hmm. It is one instructor in each class.
And then how many students are in each class?
Yeah, so most of our classes are full right now. And so again, if it's an in-person class, we're looking at about 15 to 20. And if it's an online class, we would be looking at about 10 to 15. We try to keep that cap as reasonable as possible so that it's not overwhelming for the instructor or the student.
And then are the instructors also tutors as well? Or
That's a great question. They typically are not. Typically our tutors are in a completely different pool, a separate pool from our teachers. Our teachers typically lead the group classes, and our tutors typically work one-on-one with individuals.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk more about, as you said earlier, there was before 5 tutors and now there's 65. Mm-hmm. So I want to learn more like how that happened because I think it's very impressive.
It is so impressive. And again, I really do think that is something that sets our organization apart. I think that so often as an adult, when you are looking for help with something like language or literacy, or you're working towards your GED, it's really important to meet people with compassion and kindness and warmth. And there just is a difference when people come to us and they're lacking in confidence. They might be embarrassed about where they are in the education system. And so being able to provide that one-on-one instruction is really critical. So essentially, when Katie stepped into her role, she took a look at how she could best bring volunteers into the organization. And so she plugged into an incredible volunteer. It was called Volunteer Match. It's recently been acquired by a different organization, but she would put volunteer opportunities on that website. She would put volunteer opportunities onto Share Omaha, who we use all the time, and has built just an incredible core of some of the best people out there who give their time so lovingly and willingly for these incredible people that we work with.
Do you think there will be more tutors added on in the future?
I do. We have lots of conversations about how big do we want this to get, because the need will never not be there. It's also a lot of people to manage. 65 people is a lot of people to manage and communicate with and make sure all systems are a go, and that everything is working well. And so, we're always reassessing our different programs and setting parameters where we need to, and adjusting from there. But it's truly incredible what she's built.
What country do a majority of these students come from?
That is probably one of the most frequently asked questions. And the answer is there is not one. I just had Cameron pull some data for me for some grant writing purposes the other day. And in 2025, our student population represented 63 countries and 53 different languages. So 63 countries, 53 languages. And so when people come to us and they say, I'd like to teach or tutor, but I don't speak a second language, we always say, well, first and foremost, you don't need to. And secondly, we wouldn't have a top language for you to speak because the organization represents people truly from all over the world.
And then do you have any experiences where a student would tell you why they chose to come to Nebraska out of all the other states in America?
A lot of times we have a lot of students whose spouses are here doing doctoral work at UNMC or here on campus. And so oftentimes we will see that. Many times people have come here because of family. But it really is sort of all over the place as to why people are here. But many times it's because they are here for family reasons or for schooling reasons.
Got it. And then I want to kind of go back to the tutoring topic.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound that hard to recruit because of the Share Omaha thing you brought up. Mm-hmm. Is that true, or is it still kind of difficult to recruit tutors, even though 65 tutors is a lot?
Yeah.
It's probably easier said than done.
It is. I mean, it is certainly, that is the reason why why it is a full-time position. With the organization, it is absolutely a full-time job to keep the tutors that we have, but also continue to bring new talent and tutors in. So yeah, Share Omaha volunteer match, which is now called Idealist, I believe. But Katie is so good about plugging volunteer opportunities into various websites and really spreading the word that we are we're always looking for volunteer tutors because again, the need will never not be there.
How long are the quarters for the GED classes?
Yes, that's a great question. So they are typically the same. Okay. It's a little bit different because we seem to go in waves with the number of students registering, and so Cameron, our GED coordinator who oversees that program, is really very careful about not overwhelming our teachers with too many students and not putting our students into a class where there are so many students that it's going to be harder to grasp the material. But essentially, GED is offered all throughout the year. It's just dependent upon wait list, how many people are on the wait list. So she's constantly managing that.
So after a student is done either taking all their language literacy, those beginner, intermediate, advanced classes, or if they completed their GED classes, mm-hmm. do you stay in contact with them for helping them find a job and all that as well?
So we are not in the workforce development arena, but what we will certainly do is plug them into resources. Unfortunately, a lot of times when there does come a time where people either move back to their home country or they leave Omaha. And so sadly, I wish we could stay in touch with everybody, but the reality is we have so many students that come and go that it would be next to impossible. But we are always working towards what's next. How can we best help you launch from here? But we are not in the workforce development arena per se, but we will certainly try to plug them in to other resources when and where we can.
What's the age demographic with these students?
So we serve adults 18 and over, and truly we have the entire range. I think that the oldest student that we've ever served was 83. I mean, it's just incredible. And always brings a smile to my face because I think that highlights that it really, truly is never too late. And language is hard. and the English language is hard. And I have so much compassion and admiration for people who at the age of 50 will decide to learn English or go back and try to get their GED. I think it's so admirable and inspirational. It really does just show that it's never too late.
What's the hardest part about your job being executive director?
Gosh, I think one of the hardest parts is having to set parameters, because the truth is that they're because I have to set them. And when you are put in a position of guiding an organization like this, and you continue to see the tremendous growth, it's really, really easy to get in the mindset of, I want to help everyone. Let's create this program. Let's bring on X amount of additional tutors. And I think the hardest part is for all of us is knowing that we simply can't help everyone. We can't be everything to everyone, even though I think we would all really like that. So it's just, we do what we can in our corner of the world.
I like talking to every person I interview about this. I like to talk about time management. So like you're also a mom of two, live in Blair. So what's it like being an executive director for a nonprofit and then going home and playing mom?
That's a zoo. It's not for the faint at heart. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a constant balance, and frankly, I don't know. I don't know that that balance per se can be achieved. I think there are seasons where you feel much more balanced, and then there are seasons that just feel wild. And I do my best. I do my best. I have very honest conversations with my kids and my husband every day, saying, as long as you're trying to be better than you were yesterday, that's all you can do. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to be a professional and to be a parent, and really give it your all in both arenas.
So is this more than a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job for you? Like, are you here on some weekends too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think as time has gone on, and particularly the ages of my kids, I think that I have created better boundaries, because it's necessary. But it certainly is the type of job that you could put in endless amounts of time. But I do try to lead. I do try to lead with the mentality of there has to be shut off time. And you have to go live your personal life, because if you're not right and feeling centered in your personal life, there's no way to feel centered in your professional life.
Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Moving on with that now, do you guys have a graduation ceremony at the end?
Yes.
For all your students?
We have a graduation ceremony for our GED students.
GED students, okay.
We do not have a graduation ceremony for our ESL students, but we certainly let them know. Anytime they are moving to a higher level of English, we go out of our way to really try to acknowledge that and let them know how incredible that is. But we did hold our first absolutely incredible GED graduation ceremony this past May for several of our GED graduates, and it was just a really moving, very rewarding experience. And that will now happen at least once a year. So that's very exciting.
Asked you earlier, what's your hardest part of your job? And I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite part about being a part of this nonprofit as an executive director?
I honestly think it's a very humbling gig. It reminds me to really keep perspective on the things that matter most in life. And in my humble opinion, what matters most in life is how you show up for other people, and how you present yourself to other people. And so being in a leadership role like this is a tremendous responsibility. And I do try to take great care in taking care of my team and making sure that we are growing as individuals, but also growing together. But hands down, one of the highlights of my job is just the people. The team that I have here at Learning for All is incredible. The teachers and tutors we have are remarkable. Our board is incredibly supportive. And then our students. I mean, it's just a really rewarding thing to be able to work with people who come here who come to us looking for better. And for us to be able to have a piece in that puzzle for them is really cool.
So with your title being executive director, I'm just trying to relate here. So is that similar to like being the principal of an elementary school, but for ESL students as well as
Yeah.
GED students?
Yeah. I mean, I think that would be, yeah, I think that would be a very good way to look at it.
Okay, that's good to know. Do you have any personal experiences or stories recently, whether it's like from last winter or this previous year, that you would like to share with, like, whether it was a graduation ceremony or like a funny time in a classroom or maybe something super interesting you learned online from a student?
Yeah, I mean, we truly have so many moments of just awesomeness with our students. I would say just watching those light bulb moments with some of our ESL students is incredible. We have a weekly conversation class here at the CEC that is hosted by two of our absolutely incredible volunteer instructors. They are a married couple named Sharon and Lyle, and they have devoted so much of their time to this organization. But watching these students come in and spend an hour just having conversation with other people just brings so much joy to everyone on this team. And then I would say that some of the moments from our GED celebration this past May were just incredible. We had, I think he was about 55 years old, get his GED, and it was just really moving to see him. We had a stage and we had music, and it was just a really cool, just a really humbling experience. So
Where was the graduation held recently?
we had it downtown. Our board president is an employee of First National Bank of Omaha, and so we had it at their downtown location in this incredibly beautiful atrium. I think it would be the only way I can describe it. But it was fantastic. It was fantastic, and it felt very ceremonial, and it was just really special.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really great.
I saw that you guys have partnerships, was what I saw online. I just wonder,
Yes.
how does a nonprofit like Learning for All gain partnerships like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we, one of the things that we have really tried to focus on is within the Omaha community, reaching out to those organizations that might be doing or offering similar programs to us, and either seeing how we can collaborate with them to avoid duplication of services, or lock arms with them to, maybe they can offer X, Y, and Z, but hey, we'll take this over and offer ESL or GED with your organization. So that's one of the ways that we work with other nonprofits and organizations in Omaha. For example, we work with Heart Ministry Center. They are a huge campus in North Omaha, and we provide a teacher there on their campus twice a week to offer ESL. We have worked with several different organizations in Omaha, Refugee Empowerment Center, we're at a lot of the different library branches. So we really are very focused on partnering with other organizations and entities in Omaha. We do also partner with D&D Foods in a workplace ESL relationship, and so that is something where they are actually paying us a fee to provide an instructor there to teach English, so that we can, build morale, that we can build confidence with their employees. We address safety issues because a lot of their employees their primary language is something other than English. And so we try to be very strategic about our partnerships and really take a look at what organizations we can partner with where it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Are those partnerships gained usually through like a connection, like a friend or an acquaintance, or is it like, hey, like I'm planning to shoot this email and see if we can build a connection from there?
Yeah, I think it's both. Obviously, I think if there's a warm, soft connection, like a handoff from someone, it always is smoother than just like a cold call type of scenario where we're calling up an organization in Omaha and saying, hey, can we lock arms with you? And so if there's someone there that we know, it's always a little bit smoother and makes more sense to do it that way. Nicole, our program director, has worked at a couple of different nonprofits here in Omaha, and so she's really well connected in the community. We have all become well connected in the community. I think when you're in the nonprofit space, just by default, you get to know a lot of the other nonprofits. But it always helps to have a connection.
And then do you know, I don't know how to word this question. So as I said earlier, like these immigrants and refugees are coming to Nebraska out of all these other 49 states. And you brought up earlier how like they're either here because their spouse is getting a doctorate degree and they want to learn a new skill because they will need it living in America. How am I supposed to word this? Well, I don't know if you can answer this question. It's totally okay if you can't. But what makes Nebraska so special with like ESL, with just teaching immigrants and refugees compared to either other Midwest states or other states? Because like as you said, you went to San Diego for a couple of years. Granted, it was not for working for a nonprofit at all. But I don't know. Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it does. And, to be honest, I think that most states do offer these types of organizations. I look at Omaha, and Omaha is certainly not one of the biggest cities in the United States. Not that we're one of the smallest. I think that we're a pretty average size city. We're getting bigger every year, certainly. But I think that it doesn't matter what state you're living in. I think these resources are available to you, but I can't really speak to that because I'm not in those other states. What I can tell you is that we have lots of reach outs from people who are living in other states saying, could I at least take an online class with you? And going back to what I was saying about one of the harder parts of my job is having to set parameters and sometimes having to say no to people. We have created, what I can loosely call a 60-mile radius. And so we will serve people within a 60-mile radius of Omaha in every direction. So that does include several counties. But when we get a call from South Carolina and someone's saying, I found your program online, which is fantastic. And normally we ask, how did you hear about us? Who guided you to us? But we obviously can't serve those people because our focus is going to be Omaha and the surrounding community. So I can't speak to what the other states offer, but I'm fairly confident that I would be shocked if most states did not offer something similar to us. And if we do get a call from South Carolina or another state, we'll try to help them. We absolutely will try to plug them into something that is hopefully offered in their neck of the woods.
Do you guys have any locations in the Lincoln area?
You know what, we don't, but there's a thriving organization there called Lincoln Literacy Center, and they offer very similar services, and they are a huge organization, and so they cover a lot of Lincoln and the surrounding communities there.
And then we kind of brought this up before we started the interview. I asked you about like when we were going over the questions. Respectfully, I was like, do you guys have like data goals or just like any goals in general? And you brought up a perfect example where you said, if you guys were to find out if people in Fremont need these programs that you guys will provide that.
Yeah.
Are there like small towns that you guys either reach out to you or you reach out to them?
Yes.
Similar to like the size of Fremont, even though I call Fremont Omaha, but that's just my opinion.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that we do always try to be very mindful of is when we take a look at our registration form, what zip codes we're seeing. And if we're seeing a lot of people registering from the Fremont zip code, which we were seeing that, we had also gotten word that there is a very large Latino population in Fremont, and we did not yet have a class there. And so Nicole, our program director, made that happen within a very short period of time, and went to Fremont and went to the Fremont Public Library, and we now have a class at the Fremont Public Library, which meets the demand of that community and fulfills a huge need there. And so we do a lot of that. If our growth is really dependent on where the people are. And so yes, we will offer classes here. Our office is housed here within the CEC, the Barbara Whites Community Engagement Center, but our goal is not to offer more than just a few classes here. It's a nice central location, but what our focus is taking a look at zip codes and going where the new registrants are. And so to your point, what other smaller towns or smaller cities? We've had people from Columbus. We've had people from Norfolk, who most people call it Norfolk. but it's a little bit shocking how great the need is in those smaller communities, and they really don't have access to a lot of resources. And so again, I would say that's the harder part of this job, is having to stick to those parameters, because we just simply can't serve everyone, even though I would love to.
Courtney, I've enjoyed this interview with you. I learned a lot about the nonprofit, and I'm rooting for you guys for sure.
Oh, thank you so much.
And then to wrap up this interview, can you share again where, if someone listening here is like, hey, I know someone that would love this program and learn English and all this other jazz and the GED classes as well. Mm-hmm. Can you share that information, whether it's like social media usernames or just your online website?
Yeah, so we are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we're on LinkedIn. You can just look up Learning for All, and you would be able to find all of us there, all of us on those various platforms. And then if you just visit our website at golearnall.org, all of our programs are listed there, how you can donate if that speaks to you, if you want to become a tutor, lots of information about our different classes. And then, of course, if someone wanted to take classes with us, that registration form is right on our website.
And do you have any last words for this interview that you want people to know?
I don't think so, but I so appreciate the opportunity to talk about this organization. And I think that if there was ever a time to try and do what we can in our corner of the world, now's the opportunity. So I'm just grateful to share our story.
I appreciate your time, Courtney.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for everyone that's listening.